Yo, what's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. Today's video is going to be a longer format interview with the upcoming vocalist star Dani King. If you guys don't know who Dani King is, she is a very talented singer that has worked her butt off to be where she is and to get her skill set to where it's at. Now, in this video, I'll have timestamps for when questions are asked. Like I said, since it is longer format, I try to put text in the bottom for simplistic answers, but some of them, obviously, she's explaining over a long time, so I don't like put anything in the caption down there and let her explain her philosophy or her thoughts behind it. Now, in this video, we talk about the vocals that we specifically used on our track versus others as well when we're talking about songwriting and vocal production. But before we get into the video, I want to show you the vocals she sent me, the raw ones. So when we are talking about, how compressed and how nice her vocals sound, or like her dubs or her harmonics, you guys will have a sense. And yeah, I guess you can come back and reference this if you want. Other than that, before I show the project, real quick, this is going to go out, I believe, on the 28th, which means if you're doing my remix competition, you have 2 days left if you watch this video when it's uploaded. So 2 days left at the time of this video is uploaded, which is the end of the month of November at midnight. And if you're new here, feel free to subscribe as we are grinding for 1,000 subs currently. If you do enjoy the video, feel free to hit like. And I'm interested personally, if you watch most or at least all the way through the interview, what's your favorite tip or trick that maybe you didn't know? I'm really curious to know what helped you guys out the most when I do these interviews, because I learned a lot myself. So enough of me talking, let's go into the track. So I'm in the track currently, and I have a lot of lanes of audio, but for the main part, I'm going to show you the lead vocal, and then I'm going to show you the dubs of how it came. So when Dani sends me her vocal, it came like this, and I want to show you guys what to kind of look for when you are looking at vocals. You can see that the quietest part and the loudest part of the vocal, the dynamics of it, are still there, but they're not super far apart. So you can see the loudest part is never going to be clipping. Getting vocals from a vocalist that are already clipping cannot be undone. You can try a lot to kind of mask it, but if you send a raw vocal that is clipped, the producer can't do anything about it. So as far as her vocal chain goes for this, I'll put it up on screen right now and I'll explain real quick what the text entails. Vocal chain is RX8. So RX8 is a VST plugin. Melodyne and Auto-Tune are both something that corrects pitch. You have your first compressor to take down the peaks. Pro Q3 for low cut. You can use EQ8, which is equivalent to that if you want to cut out anything below 100. Next, you're going to have a recomp, which is another compressor afterwards. Then she's going to put on a SSL channel E, which is an EQ, once again, kind of molding it to how she wants. Pro Q3 again, probably to cut off the low end and probably to boost dynamically where she wants, or if she wants to gain it down, obviously. Then she has multi-band compression once again, just make sure everything is nice and compressed, but not overly compressed. That's why you do it in stages. A de-esser to get rid of those hard S's. And RVox, which is going to be a stereo VST plugin, just add a little width, and then Soothe 2 to cut down on any frequencies that are unpleasant to the ear. So that is her vocal chain. So this is what it sounds like when we get it, and this is with no processing.
I think we are a little bit broken, trying to put the pieces back.
And you can see here that there's no really big breaths or anything. Even when she has breaths, which I cut out to mine, isn't that bad. It sounds natural. I didn't want it for this. And then if I put my long chain of stuff on, it really doesn't change it much. It just makes it sound a little more fit the song.
I think we are a little bit broken, trying to put the piece.
But really, that's just adding more shimmer and a little bit more compression to certain parts that I wanted. As far as her backup vox go, this is something I feel she is very good at. And we talk about it and questions are asked. So what I did to these backup vox is I just put Auto-Tune on, a little bit of compression, cut out the mids because we don't need it. And here's the harmonies that she created as well.
Want me, but you don't. Pull away, then hold me close.
Which is very powerful. So if we pair it with the actual vocal, this is how it sounds when it comes to the chorus.
You want me, but you don't. Pull away, then hold me close.
It fits very well, and with dubs and with dubs and harmonies, always make sure you're panning them in the field. You don't want them to compete with your main vocal. But as you can see, these aren't clipping at all. You can see the levels of this vocal. It's very well done. And that's sent to me from her. So she's doing a lot of this work, and then I'm just tailoring it more to the song. So I know this was a long intro kind of explaining what she did, but I feel it's kind of fundamental to understand what I'm talking about with her. And this is the best way I could explain it, is just letting you guys know beforehand, this is what I got from her. Yeah, so without further ado, we're going to get into the video. Like I said, it is longer format, so I'll put the questions down below in case you want to jump around. If you guys do watch it all, you're awesome. And I think you'll learn a lot as well. Dani, once again, I appreciate you being on the channel. You're a phenomenal person in the scene. And if anyone wants vocals from her, feel free to hit her up. Her socials are all linked down below, her Patreon, all that fun stuff. Get in contact with her. She's a great person, and I hope you guys enjoy this interview. All right, peace. Well, what is going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. Like I said, we have a very talented vocalist here going to give us some insight on the industry here, and her name is Dani King. What is going on, Dani King?
What's up? How are you?
I'm good. I'm very excited for this.
Me too.
Working with you and, finally getting to meet you in person not too long ago.
I know.
Finally, right?
Wild that we literally walked into each other at Lost Lands.
Yeah, getting lost.
Like 50,000 people there, and you're just like, Dani. I'm like,
I was like, I know her. She looks like she's about to perform on stage. You can always tell the artists in the group, because you're like, everyone has all their colorful stuff, and then you see a crew of black rolling in, and you're like, I wonder whose artistic choice that was.
Fair.
So.
I do try to break out and wear some color, but it depends. Like if you're sound checking and you're backstage and stuff, you have to be wearing black, because otherwise you're gonna stick out like a sore thumb. Like people will see you.
Well, that's awesome. Well, I just want to say I appreciate your time, you being here. And I know we have a survey of questions going on, but do you want to give a little background about, your journey into becoming a vocalist and maybe just finding your way into the scene and all that?
Yeah, totally. So I've always been musically inclined. When I was about 3, my parents took me to go see Beauty and the Beast live, and I told my mom I want to sing on stage like Belle. So
Aww.
I know. They put me in piano lessons when I was 5, and then I started taking voice lessons at 12, learning guitar. I mostly worked in like acoustic pop kind of music. I started playing at bars when I was 14, just doing like 3-hour live sets, guitar and vocals. And I was so young, my parents had to accompany me.
That's cool,
so I did that until I was 18. And then I went to Belmont University, got a degree in commercial voice with a minor in music business. And while I was in school, I started going to EDM shows. I saw Skrillex and Pretty Lights do a co-headliner. I saw Cruella, went and saw all of these really amazing artists. And I just was really drawn towards that genre. I came into it in like the 2011 era of, Skrillex and Nero and Flux Pavilion and Glitch Mob and like all those artists. So I think it was Promises by Nero was like one of
the remix or with Skrillex?
I think it was the original. The original is the one that I heard that I was like, oh my God, I want to sing on stuff like this too. So I didn't really start pursuing that until 2015. So like about 4 years later, right after I graduated college, I moved out to LA, got a bartending job, and I just started looking for work with electronic producers. And like it slowly gained traction. It took me quite a while. I didn't get management until 2019. So about 4 years of working towards it. Someone finally heard my project and was like, I love you and I want to manage you. And I think that I can take you pretty far. And that's my manager, Natasha. When she started with me, I had 41 monthly listeners on Spotify. And in 2 years, we capped out at like 80K. So she's been like the best. I couldn't have done it without her, truly. Like,
I've only met her at Omos's show, but she was such a nice person and such a like endearing individual. So I can definitely see. I feel like your group has this good energy in it. Like no matter
Yeah.
who you're
Well,
around, like everyone has that good energy that's in your circle. So I feel like that's very, very
exactly. She's picky about who she keeps around, but also like we're all friends. And I think that's
yeah.
been one of the most important parts about all of us working together is like we're coworkers, but we are all friends and we all have each other's backs. And I think that's been really important for me to, grow that group of people that I trust and that I'm able to work with and like work my way up in the industry with as well.
Yeah. I mean, trust in this business is very important. And I can definitely see that with who you interact with, all your
Yeah.
interactions, people you're around are people that I also trust and all that from the
Amazing.
list
I
of
love to
brands.
hear
So
that.
yeah, no, it is all about the energy. So that's
Yeah.
really cool. I didn't know you started pursuing that early, which makes sense
I've been
why,
doing it for a long time.
yeah, it explains why you're so good at it.
Thank
So,
you.
well, so I had a few questions written out and we kind of jumped over a few of them, but we'll definitely reiterate in them
Yeah.
now. So we'll talk about like, so how long have you actually been singing for? You said you did lessons when you're growing up, but like, were you
Yeah.
dead set on singing, or did there a certain point like when you moved to LA where you became like dead set, like I'm going to be a singer?
I literally, since I was 3, I used
Okay.
to annoy the shit out of my brother, just singing everything all day, every day when we were little, all the time. Like he would be crying, like, stop it, stop it. I've literally always wanted to do it. There's never been anything else that I've wanted to do instead. Never. And my parents' rule was pick something and be really fucking good at it. That was like,
Yes.
that was the number one rule. Like,
Yes, dude.
you just have to be good at it.
So the second question is a little more in depth, a little more personal, more the sauce of vocals. And so obviously we're working on a track together right now. And the ones you
Yes.
sent me were probably one of the most professional I've received from singers and all that. And the fact that you
Thank you.
do it yourself is
Yes.
very impressive to me. Like it's yeah, just very impressive. That's all I can really say. And for anyone
I
that
really
doesn't
appreciate
understand,
that.
her vocals are not clipping. They're very well compressed, labeled so nicely. It's pretty much like a drag and drop, which makes a producer that has a chaotic project, especially me with like already 150 lanes and I'm dragging in, 15 lanes of vocals on here. My computer's already hating me. It makes it a lot easier.
Yeah.
I would almost say generally like it's like splice ready. Like you could just plug and play. Obviously I mixed and added a little flavor to our own creative thing,
Yeah.
but like right out the gate, just solid stuff. So I wanted to know like how long have you been learning like mixing vocals, and like what are some tips and tricks to help get a really professional sounding vocal, I guess? And
Okay, so I've only been vocal producing for a year, a little over a year now. I just got really sick of sending my vocals off to producers and getting back songs that sounded like shit because most producers that I know, the last thing that they learn is vocal production. The last thing producers learn is vocal production, whereas it's the first thing that I'm learning because I've been like vocal centered. Pretty much that's the only thing I've really done so far in EDM. I felt like it was important if I was going to continue on this path to just be able to handle everything on the vocal side, everything from the songwriting to the creating the melodies to creating the harmonies, recording, and processing and editing all of it. I'm still learning the mixing. I'm definitely not like a super expert at vocal mixing yet, but I think I have at least a solid grasp of it. The main things that I definitely am like solid on are the editing and production of the vocals so far. So it drives me crazy when you can hear breaths in the songs. Like one of my favorite songs of all time is Fractures by Illenium. And the breaths in that song are atrocious. They are so loud.
yeah,
And so I'm hearing stuff like that. And those are just like little tiny details that I know they're not going to bug 90% of people, but they're going to bother me. So
yeah,
I
no,
have
that's
to cut
fair.
them out. So my deal with cutting out the breaths is if it's starting a phrase, it doesn't need the breath there. Just get rid of it. If there's a big enough space in between the first phrase and the second phrase where there's like a total gap, cut out the breath. It's not necessary. But if the breath is imperative to making it sound like a human saying it, then leave it in. And I work in Logic, so I have to go in and then chop it out and then do selection-based processing. And then I lower the gain on that breath down, usually anywhere from like 5 decibels to 12 decibels. I lower it a lot.
Yeah, no.
But
100%.
it's enough so that it's still in the acapella at least sounds like a person saying it, because I don't want to take away like the humanity of my voice when I'm editing, you know?
With you, you'll see like I'll send you updates throughout the track. Like I'll be like, oh, here, I wrote this, by the way. Here's what we did, blah blah blah, or whatever. And I always look for like feedback, because I rather just go through a little itty bitty and you're like, oh, I'm not really a fan of this part here, or like what can we do with the vocal here, rather than like give you a final product like here's what it is. Even though like, yeah, because I'm like, even though, you know, it may be like a feature with you, it's still a collaborative effort in my opinion.
Yeah, that's my favorite way to work too.
And yeah,
and that's how I do all my songwriting too. You experience that. Like I'll write out a few ideas and I'll just do like a verse chorus of each one, and then I'll let the producer pick their favorite. And then once we've hashed out that melody and chorus, because more often than not, the melody is going to be the same for the second verse. Once that's hashed out, then I write the second verse, and then we have a whole song.
Yeah.
And so it's like everyone gets input, everyone's happy with the end result. And the other thing for that, like tip for vocalists, if you do that, then you can also go back in and be like, no rewrites once we've agreed on all of this. So, you know, some people will do, you get like 3 rewrites, you get like 3 edits.
Yeah.
I don't do that. Like we collaborate across the entire way. So if you don't like it at the end, then like there's a bigger issue so there.
Much time. Yeah.
Exactly.
100%. And
yeah,
you know, I think that's smart, because on a business side, that's going to save you time, money, effort. Mm-hmm. And that way both parties are happy this way. You know, if there's something they don't like, a little detail, you know, speak up or forever hold your peace, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
So that kind of brings me to another question, at least when we're talking about verses and choruses. And that is like, your pronunciation is very clean. Very clean.
Thank you.
Like there's some places in vocals where I normally have to go in and try to boost maybe a certain vowel or attempt to, where someone's like maybe not clear because, you know, it's EDM. It's supposed to be like arrogant and vibey and all that, but sometimes you lose but sometimes you do lose the pronunciation, and yours are very like specific, but not like overwhelming. It's not like your S's are like slapping the mic with it, you know, like a de-esser coming out of nowhere or something. But I was wondering if you had a certain process of how you've came to pronouncing stuff really well as you're singing and all that stuff.
Okay, so first of all, it's really funny that you said that about the S's, because you know how I go in and lower the breaths?
The S's too.
I manually do that with the S's too. So anything that might be overwhelming, I lower that down. I grew up in the Midwest, so we're very like in Chicago, and so it's very just like on top of pronunciation. Like everything is kind of like loud and sharp. Like let's be honest. But I did grow up with a Midwestern accent, so I kind of had to work on getting rid of that. But I took a. We did say y'all, but the one that everyone thinks is hilarious is the way I pronounce my O's. It's like the O.
Oh, don't you know? got a little Canadian spritz.
I do that. So I have to be careful about that sometimes. But one of the things I had to do in college was take a diction class, like how to pronounce things.
Oh, okay.
So that was interesting. That was a little bit more classical music geared, talking about pronunciation in like Italian and different languages and stuff like that. But one of the things that they talked about is when you feel like you are pronouncing normally, you're probably not pronouncing enough.
Ooh,
if you feel like you're overpronouncing, you're probably pronouncing it just the right amount. So it's about finding that balance. And another thing too is just recording yourself and listening back to make sure that it's like audible and you're able to understand every single word that you're saying. And one of the ways that I always think about that when I'm recording / writing too is songwriting is storytelling. So you need to think about it as though it's like a speech pattern, not just like a song. So you're not going to put the emphasis on weird syllables. You're going to put the emphasis on the syllable that makes the most sense. And if you're telling a story to your friends, you're not going to sit there. You're not going to sit there and like talking like You can't understand what you're saying. If you want to tell a story and you want to get it across, then you need to speak in a way that your friends are going to understand you, and you're not going to have to repeat yourself constantly. So like, that's always the way that I think about it in my brain. I'm telling a story to my friends. How is it going to make sense? And then as far as like on the tail end of it, editing wise, I turn down the S's. And then anything that might create a plosive sound in the microphone, I do a cut of like -3 decibels at 200, because that's where the plosive sound hits. So if you cut that down and you have any like B's or P's that are popping too much, that'll lower that down and make it a lot more manageable without being overwhelming.
Okay. This one's going to be more for maybe vocalists. I don't know if you mentor or in general that you see that maybe want feedback, but what's one thing you see vocalists doing that is ruining their vocals?
Ooh.
Besides, let's say clipping, because I feel like that's a obvious one.
That's fair. But that's more of like a technical issue than anything. So first and foremost, I think overthinking really messes with people, and whether that relates to like overperforming the song, underperforming the song, sounding too technical and not having any life to your vocals. And like, that's something that I struggled with for years, like 2015 to 2018. It was really hard for me to record properly without having that like emotion in my vocals. And I just had a breakthrough with that like 2 years ago. That took forever for me to really get to in the studio versus performing live.
Do you
think
it's
different? It feels different.
And sorry to interrupt. Do you think
that's okay,
the emotional side and all that is coming to maybe a point of confidence and or emotionally available, like making yourself available to the song? You know, like
yes. I think the biggest issue for me is it just feels awkward. Like it's almost even though I was alone in my room, it's almost like embarrassing to try and put so much emotion into something when you're just like completely alone by yourself and you're just like, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? But the more you get into it and the more you really resonate with what you're writing and understand the meaning behind the lyrics, the easier it is. And the more you let go of this idea that you have to sound perfect on the microphone, the better you're going to get that emotion across. You don't have to sound perfect on the mic. If you have a note that's flat, it's okay. That's what auto-tune's for. If the delivery is perfect, the delivery is perfect. It doesn't mean like the notes have to be perfect. It means the emotion has to be there. The rest can be fixed. Or unless you're like me and you just like to do 20 takes in a row until you get it right. But you don't have to do that.
That's me with writing a drop. I'm like, all right, 20th one's the charm. Nope. All right, scrapping that one. On to the next one. All right, this is fun.
Oh, there was a lot of takes to hit that note in the chorus of the song that we did. There was a lot of takes. I got it, but it took a while.
The song is fire. Emotionally, everything.
Thank you.
It's gas. You crushed it. You know
what?
Honestly,
I think that just comes with practice. Like it just takes time and practice and getting good at recording yourself.
For sure. And like, with anything in music production, practice makes perfect. There's a long learning curve in this. Audio engineering is crazy.
It's fucking brutal. I love it, but damn.
Exactly.
So that's one thing that I think is like pretty important. Another thing, and these are all things that I've struggled with, so I see it in other people and I recognize it. Straining. So proper warm-ups, which we all hate warm-ups, but they're a necessary evil. Writing
like
songs
scales, like scale warm-ups,
yes.
or because I don't, as a producer, my warm-up is putting on my computer, just to be fair. So
yeah, that's fine. So warm-up wise, I do a few different things. And this actually kind of falls back into diction too, with like vowels and stuff. So everyone's voice resonates at different frequencies. So like my voice is pretty dark, weirdly enough, because I know it doesn't sound like it on recordings. So when I'm warming up, I'm doing super nasal exercises. So they sound disgusting. It's like the ugliest sounding ones work the best for me. I'm not even joking. The one that does it for my voice, that puts me into like the right placement, because a lot of times I'll fall back into my throat and you want your placement to resonate up here. The one that does that for me is going, nya, 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 and just doing that up the scales. And it pushes my voice really forward, which allows me to hit higher notes and have a higher range.
That's crazy. So
cool. It's insane. Like I'll feel straining and I'll stop and I'll do that exercise and there will be no more straining. So it's about finding the vowels that put your voice into like the proper placement and doing warm-ups in those vowels. So mine is like eh and e, and obviously like eh, like those kind of vowels. Some people it's O's, O's, whatever it is, just find the warm-ups that work best for your voice and use those. Like it's really important to do so. Yeah. And then the other thing too is like writing songs that are in an appropriate range for you to sing, which like I had messaged you and I was like, I don't think I could sing this song. Why the fuck did I write it so high? And then I did that warm up and I was fine.
Yeah, that was a fun chain of messages, because literally I could feel your
Laughing at
thought
myself.
process going through it, and that's definitely me with the song. Like, I can't do. By the way, wrote this fire drop. I can do it. Okay, anyways, we're good. All that was
Well,
cap.
because I think the high note in this is like a C or a C sharp, and the first time I ever hit a C sharp was like January. Like I'm not used to hitting that note, so I'm constantly like, oh, that's out of my range. Oh, that's out of my range. It's not. If you do the proper warm-ups, it's not out of your range.
See, the mental capacity.
Yep.
Would you say say like, for example, our track's in E minor, say it wasn't able to be done. Have you ever thought about recording in say like maybe an not a
half
key
step down
below
or something? Yeah.
yeah, half step or a whole step or whatever it would be, and then transposing? Or do you like usually just like to stay away from that or process there?
I personally prefer not to do that. But one of the reasons why I prefer not to do that is I don't know what is up with my voice, but my voice does not like to be tuned.
That's fair.
Every time I've tried to do that, my voice ends up sounding warped and like weird and not in a good way.
Yeah.
I know other artists who can do that with no problem whatsoever. Me, not so much. And I've tried a few times.
Well, the reason why I ask, because I know Ray Volbin brought that up. Like he for his song, he's like, oh, record lower and bring it back up. Keep in mind, he does do more auto-tune based stuff. It's not as humanized as say you, because I think you use Melodyne as well, which is even.
I use both Melodyne and auto-tune.
Yeah, Melodyne is like you're preserving really the core process of your vocal with auto-tune, which I still use lightly on vocals just to make sure the shimmer's there. But auto-tune definitely gives more of a, I would say, robotic, especially the more intense you go with it.
Yeah, and that's like I use Melodyne for the actual tuning, but even using Melodyne to pitch it back up, it gets warped. I don't know why, but oh, I have one more for the vocalist too.
Okay.
And I think this is super important, like just as important as all the others, is getting familiar with vocal production and like understanding the technical side of it. Because like I went to music school. I was mediocre at best compared to most of the singers there. Truly, like I'm not exaggerating.
Now though,
I am literally not exaggerating. I went to school with some of the best singers in the country, and half of them are vocal teachers now because they don't know how to record themselves. They don't know how to do any sort of vocal production. They didn't really learn the technical skills that go along with monetizing this as like and making this a career. Yeah. And I think that's really important. At least if you don't want to learn vocal production yourself, that's okay. Just have someone reliable that you can work with that will do your vocals for you and understand it enough, like understand the technical side enough that you can give critiques back on mixes that you get. So you're not just sitting there like, I know something's wrong, but I don't know what.
Another question is when you write lyrics, like how do you come up with your melody? Do you use a certain technique? Like when you get the flow, you can even use, I guess, our song as an example, or however you want to go about the thought process.
Kind of, not really.
Okay.
I almost always start with the lyrics. Lyrics are usually my go-to. I start with the lyrics and then I form the melody around the lyrics. I think about music in a very storytelling fashion. Like I was saying earlier, you're telling a story. So how are you going to tell the story to your friends? You want your lyrics to make sense, have the emphasis on the right syllables, and make it sound conversational in a way that if you write it out, you can read it and you can read the story and you're like, oh, cool, that's what it's saying. I start there and then I build the melody around that. And usually when I'm building the melody, because I do a lot of work just based on instrumentals. So if someone sends me an instrumental, I listen to the instrumental through a few times and I'm like, okay, does it need something that's like high and lilting and flowy, or fast-paced lyrics, or a combination of both? And that's when I start to kind of put all that together. And if I ever get stuck on a melody, I sit there and I like plunk it out on the piano. And then the other thing too that I think is important, especially for EDM, is having having the lyrics and melody kind of flow and build with the rest of the track, because EDM, it's all about builds, right? Like
tension.
The verse and the chorus are building up to the drop. So how are you going to use your lyrics to make that happen as well? And melody.
It definitely sounds like a lot of moving parts. One question I had for that answer was, you said like you went for the lyrics first over melody. Now, I'm going to bring up my track example because I feel like using examples at least gives some context. So I sent her a instrumental called Pain. When you're writing like the chorus or something to that track, did you have like a certain word in your head already associated that you wanted to build around, or did you just kind of think of some general words and just start throwing them together?
So this one was interesting. Hang on, let me check this. So this was really interesting because this is actually an old co-write that I had that I did like 6 years ago or something. It was a long time ago. And I took the co-write and I just kind of reshaped it to fit your song. And the main thing that I had to do with that was changing out just a few words and then changing out the melody to make it fit your song a little better. So when we wrote this song, we were talking about, I got together with my friend Chelsea and we were talking about basically like when you really like someone and it's just kind of not working out and you just like keep breaking up and getting back together and keep breaking up and getting back together. And so when we started with this, we were talking about the idea of a puzzle. And so that's where the lyrical ideas come from. I think we are a little bit broken trying to put the pieces back. Seems a little bit hopeless because the edges are all jagged. And then we're talking about don't have time to play games. And when I think we're getting closer, another piece just won't align. So everything in there kind of ties back into the puzzle idea.
Okay.
So that's how we started with that one. I've done other songs. Trying to pull up like another idea or another example that's out that would be like an easy one to explain. Oh, Worst Behavior with Bishu is a great example. So sometimes when I start writing, I'll start with like the title idea, and the title idea is usually like also the hook. So Worst Behavior, I had the idea I wanted to write this song titled Worst Behavior, but I just had to figure out it's a puzzle. Like it's putting together the pieces of a puzzle. I had to figure out which pieces fit where to create this story that will lead you back to that little hook line, which is Worst Behavior. And it's like the thesis of the song. And then you write out your little outline to figure out like how to get yourself to the thesis. And then you fill in all the parts.
Okay.
So like the example of Worst Behavior, we used lines like, I fight against the light you shine on me. Your angel eyes won't set me free. I can't control myself when it comes to you. I'm someone else. Your heart of gold is wasted on me. And then the hook, the thesis is, baby, we can't fight our nature. I'm your demon. You're my savior. You bring out my worst behavior.
I'm drowning your devotion to me. Baby, we can't fight our nature. I'm your demon. You're my savior. You bring out my worst behavior.
So it's like,
okay.
So we started with that chorus and then we filled in all the rest of it to get there.
Okay, so that was your main thing. I think that's very interesting that you start with the chorus. I mean, it makes sense because like for me, I'm a very, ironically, like I know music people are not really, I'm a very big like analytical, mathematical person. So like,
yeah,
it's definitely been a journey to like open up my creative side. So I always like to have like an anchor point. And then I grow on it. I'm like, this is the theme, and then we grow on it. You know, it makes me wonder when you're writing that stuff. Are you big in like poetry or something? Because like when you say it like that instead of lyrics, it sounds very poetic. I don't know if you follow any like maybe poetic style, like AABB like theme or anything. I don't know if you're big into that. I don't know much about it, like rhythms and all that stuff. So
I don't really follow it in the sense of like poetry, but I've read a bunch of like songwriting textbooks and stuff like that. Okay. And they have a similar style of like the AB, and then like rhyming schemes as well, internal rhymes, all kinds of stuff like that. I'm super into the nerdy side of it and like
Seuss.
learning what I can. I love that shit. So,
No, I
but
mean, it
that's
really
fun. So
shows.
I mean, that's the thing. Sometimes I start with the chorus, and sometimes I start from the beginning and I tell the story. So it just depends on my mood that day, to be completely honest.
Oh, that's perfect. That's a perfect answer. So my next question, I think we kind of already answered it, which is what's something you would tell an aspiring vocalist to help level them up? Is there anything you want to else touch on that? Is there like maybe a one thing that clicked in your mind? You're like, oh my God, like, did you have any of those moments or anything as a vocalist? And this could be on a
Yeah, I
business side,
mean,
not maybe just production, just whatever you think would.
yeah, I, yeah, I'm gonna be honest. I've got a couple things here that,
Okay.
you know, for some people it takes a while. For some people it's pretty quick. First and foremost, I genuinely do believe that like 90% of the singers out there, or honestly like musicians out there, it's like 15% natural talent and 85% hard work. Like when I started singing, I did not have the range that I have. Puppy.
He said, what are y'all talking about?
Yes, come join the party. No, when I first started, like I think the highest note I could hit was a G, and now the highest note I can hit is a C sharp. And I didn't get that just because I'm naturally good at it. I got it because I had to work really, really hard to get there. It took 14 years for me to, change my range to be that big, but it was worth it. And it's about practicing, learning. If you can't afford a vocal coach, go to YouTube. Like
YouTube
it's all on the
University.
internet for us. Yeah, we can use all of it. And so that's really important. I think also creating your own schedule and sticking to it will help you keep that kind of like hard work mentality going. But to go along with that, do not burn yourself out. Everyone needs to take a day off. Everybody. And
That's a tough one.
I know it's so hard.
You get that extra sense as a content creator
know.
/ all that. You take that day off, or you like enjoy yourself. You watch that
And you're just
Netflix
sitting
show,
there,
and you're
you're
like, I could be doing other things.
I know it's so hard to do, but it is like, it is so important because I burned myself out and I was out for like 3 months.
I felt that. I've definitely had time.
Burnouts will put you further behind than if you just take the 1 day off a week. Like 1 to 2 days off. I take 2 days off a week. That's like, I force myself to do it. I have to do that.
Your friends will like you more too. I've learned.
Exactly. It's a little bit easier. And but that's what keeps you from burning out. You have the time to be with your friends. You have the time to spend with your loved ones, your family, whatever. You have the time to do your laundry and clean your house. Like it's so important to do all these things. And the last one that I know is also really difficult for some people, but
before you go to that one.
Oh yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
How many hours a day do you do vocal work? So like producers, they're known for doing extended periods. My time is about 4 to 6 hours a day, where I find my comfort zone, where I'm just what I can do to not burn myself out, but get enough done. So what is that for you? And how do you feel that sits with, like, I don't know if you worked with other vocalists, like how long is a usual day in your life, I guess?
It depends on what deadlines I have going on. Normally, because I'm full-time music now, so I treat it like a 9 to 5 job. I work 6 to 8 hours a day normally. And I try to make that a blend of, like right now I'm learning production and DJing. So I try to spend half an hour to an hour every work day of learning something new, whether it be DJing, production, whatever. And then usually singing wise, it's like 3 or 4 hours. And then I'll do a bunch of like editing or admin work or whatever, because admin work's just as important.
Those emails.
And something else. Yeah, emails, spreadsheets, all of the above, working in a sauna, all that shit. Something else that I know is like kind of hilarious and a little ridiculous, but I am like super ADHD. It is really hard for me to sit still and focus. Unless I have multiple sources of stimulation being thrown at my face.
Yep.
So I think I watched like half a season of The Office while I was editing the vocals for your project.
That's like, good though.
I will just I'll put on a podcast, I'll put on audiobook, I'll put on random TV shows that I like don't actually have to pay attention to while I'm sitting there doing all the breath cuts and all the aligning the vocals and stuff.
That's
because it's boring.
I need stimulus too. I have to, like, I'll throw on a podcast unless I'm actually producing or something. But if I'm doing all the busy work stuff, YouTube, Spotify, something's thrown up on my list screen over here. So at least keep me busy. So I feel that.
I know. Okay. I'm glad I'm not the only one who does that. Cause like I watched like all of Bob's Burgers in basically one go. Cause I had a bunch of editing to do. But stuff that'll
That's
keep
good.
you in your seat and like keep you focused can really help get through the day. So I do try to treat it like a 9 to 5 job. I work 6 to 8 hours a day, generally at this desk. Sometimes if I'm doing admin work, I'll go sit outside or in the living room to change it up.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh, completely fine.
yeah, but when I was bartending, I would usually only work like Monday through Wednesday, and then I was bartending Thursday through Sunday, or Thursday
Okay.
through Saturday normally, and then I would take Sunday off. And I would do the same thing. I would work like 6 to 8 hours a day then too. It is, but I'm a big proponent of don't overwork yourself. Please.
Mental health is important, everyone. Get it right.
Yeah, it
You gotta keep it
is.
healthy. You gotta keep it healthy.
Speaking of mental health, important to not let this get to you, but learn how to take critiques and constructive criticism. And
Yes.
don't let it get you down. Don't let it get you frustrated. It's important because like everyone involved in the collaborative process is just trying to get the best song possible. So if something needs to be improved on your end, like listen to them and accept that critique and make the necessary changes. I know a lot of vocalists struggle with this and like they don't want to make those edits. They don't want to change their lyrics. They don't want to do those kinds of things. But I mean, you have to. That's the nature of this business.
Especially if your collaborative efforts are within a project, like people that you're working with, say you and me on our project. That's different than taking subjective feedback outside, which is still important as well from your mentors or trusted people. You know,
Yeah.
I wouldn't send it to your friends that don't know anything and take their advice. I mean, if they say it sounds good, that's a good start, you know, but yeah, I think it's very important to be able to take constructive criticism because it's only going to improve you down the road. Because after someone tells you 10 times that this is a reoccurring thing or something, and you're like, okay, I know this is something I do. Now I can proactively fix this or whatever my process needs to be to change to get better results. And
exactly.
at the end of the day, it's just going to make your workflow, your life, and everything go much quicker and easier.
Yeah. And another thing too, because this has happened with me, don't let the criticism get to you, but also know when to stick to your guns. Like
There's a
just
difference
trust
between
yourself.
Yeah,
Trust
objective
yourself.
and subjective feedback and knowing if
I know. I at one point had someone tell me that if I ever wanted to sell top lines, I would have to change my writing style and my like vocals to be higher and more flowy and airy like Haliens. And I was like,
No,
but I'm not her. Like
you don't need
that's
to be.
not exactly. I'm like,
You have
that
a
doesn't
very
make sense for me.
powerful. You have a
Thank
very
you.
powerful voice. It's just how it is. Like
Yeah.
when you hear your
I don't
voice on
have
any
the same
track,
voice
you
as
know.
her.
Yeah, exactly.
And it doesn't make sense for me to try to be like her. That's just me chasing
another person's dream, and they're always going to be able to do it better.
Exactly.
It's them,
Exactly. So,
you know,
getting critiques like that, you're just like, that's stupid. No,
Bro,
I'm not going to do that.
I feel
But
that.
little things like, hey, can we change this the melody of this line to go like this? Like, yeah, sure, whatever. Let's do it.
So my next question is, what's something you want producers to stop doing or that gets on your nerves when sending you instrumentals? And you can roast
I only
me
have
if you
two
want
things
to.
and it's really easy.
Okay.
It's
All right.
so easy. No, you didn't do any of this. You were great. Please stop sending instrumentals that are completely and fully produced out with no room for vocals. Like the drop, I understand, but when the verse is so busy and full that there's no space for me to sing, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. Like, and I'm probably going to turn down the project if that's the case. And the other one, which is also so easy, I don't know why people do this. Stop leaving the pre-drop sample vocals on when you send it to a vocalist. I literally just had to finish recording a song that had a straight up splice sample over the part where I'm supposed to be singing the chorus. And I'm like, I recorded it. I had to record over it. It's just is what it is. That's annoying.
Yeah, and that can definitely
But
throw
that's
off
really
your.
it.
Oh, that's it. That's the only two.
Yeah,
nothing
that's
worse. Okay.
Something else that's super helpful for like vocalists and also for producers that I do this too is labeling your songs with the BPM and the key. It just saves everyone time.
I'm too OCD
it's not
to do
necessary. I know, me too. Like it's not necessary, but it's helpful. So no, that's it. That's really the only like pet peeves I have.
And to any producer out there, if you're not musically inclined like I am, just save it in the title. It makes it so much easier instead of going back in the project. Like, what key is this in, bro? I don't even know.
Yep. Actually, no, I'll add one more. This is more on the business side than anything.
Okay.
When we drop my top line fee, please don't ghost if you can't afford it. Just say, hey, like this is out of my budget. Really sorry. No problem. Like there's no hard feelings. Don't like ghosting. And I don't like when people try to say things like, well, we're just in it for the music. Why aren't you just in it for the music? I get that all the time.
Because
And I'm like, this is my
that's
job.
terrible. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. People say that to me
What?
all the time. Or like they'll try to shame me for how expensive my top line fee is. And I'm like,
No.
I'm not that expensive.
Let me
in
tell anyone
comparison.
that is interested in your top line. It's well worth it. You get very
Yeah,
professional
thank you.
sounding
I
stuff.
appreciate that. And
And
that's, I understand if I'm out of your budget, that's okay. There's literally no shame in that whatsoever. Everyone has budgets and has to stick to it. But don't shame
Yeah.
me for that. Like that
Oh,
is
exactly.
another one that
And
I'm just like,
one
can we not?
one thing that I'll bring up as a business side, because we're both, don't be afraid to ask if it doesn't hit your budget, if they're willing to negotiate on something. The worst someone can say is no. And then you have your answer. You know, if you're like, oh, I
I
can't
am
do this budget, but
always
if we
willing
can
to
do this
negotiate.
and this and this, and maybe,
Yeah.
you know, I take up something different, or maybe give you bigger back end or you know, royalties or
Mhm.
something. Like, this is a business. People want to work on music. That's why we do this. But like
Yeah.
at the same time, you do have to understand that, like, yeah, if I want to pay you for your time to be on my track, I understand that. And that's how the business works.
I will literally always negotiate. I have a bottom line, but I
Yeah.
will always negotiate. I have no problem with that whatsoever.
Okay, so my next question is, since you've given us so much information and all that stuff about, you know, tips and tricks in this field, which I'm learning about too, as you're telling me, so I love it.
Sweet.
Which is, I believe you have a Patreon, right? And
I do, yes.
if you do, can you tell us about it, or like what to
Yeah.
expect?
So I just started it this year, so I'm still kind of getting into it. But as of right now, I've been doing a bunch of songwriting analysis on it, which is super fun. So I'll go back and I'll take a song that I've already released so you can listen along. And I will write out like what I was talking about earlier, the thesis, the outline, and then I'll talk about all the different metaphors, similes, idioms, that I use in the song. And I'll explain in depth, like what I was thinking when I wrote this, / the different ways that I wanted it to be applied to other people. Cause sometimes some of them have multi-meanings to them, and I'll do little videos on that. And then I do like sneak peeks of songs and top lines and stuff like that. So like I've got sneak peeks of my Bear Grylls collab is up there. My
Ooh.
Whales collab is on there.
Ooh.
And I just upgraded my phone. So I finally have a new camera to work with. So I'm going to be doing more like vocal techniques, editing tips and tricks and stuff like that. And then I do offer a couple spaces for one-on-one coaching for just vocal production and vocals in general.
Interesting. That's cool. And is that available now?
Yeah, it is.
Okay, awesome. I'll pop it up on the screen probably while you're talking. Your
Thanks.
Patreon.
Yeah.
And then, as well as anyone's interested, the links will be down below for her Patreon and
Perfect.
all of her socials and stuff.
Hell yeah.
Let's see here. Well, you just hinted at the next question, but I say any big releases coming up soon. So we already know Bear Grylls and Whales.
I don't know when those are coming out though. We don't have a set date on those yet.
Okay.
We'll
Anything
see.
coming soon?
I have collabs with them, but don't know when they're coming out. Yeah, I've got 2 coming in January.
Okay.
I have 1 coming in December with Sentient, and that's going to be on, I think it's going to be on Root Service, pretty sure, which is Bear
wow.
Grylls' label.
Yeah.
And then I've got 2 in January, 1 on Lost in Dreams and 1 on Bitbird, which I'm like super excited about those. Those are going to be fun. And I have like 30 more songs that we're still pitching out. So there's going to be a lot of releases coming up. Oh yeah, the January one is with Oliver Omos, and I think I have like 6 more with him that are still being pitched.
You guys are running out. Come on, you guys had like 30 last year. You got to keep.
I know, it's ridiculous, but we like working together. It's a good time.
Oh yeah, Oliver's a great dude. Okay, so then my community did have a few questions. I was gonna pop up real quick from this.
Hit me.
How do you compose your vocals according to the instrumental, and how do you approach it to make sure it fits the track and like the mindset and the vibe?
That is like 90% trial and error. It's just about following your instinct and going with what you think sounds the best. So sometimes you'll get an instrumental that's like really fast paced through the verse, and you'll want to match that fast paced with fast paced lyrics and vocals. Or sometimes you'll want it to be like high and flowy over that fast paced section to kind of offset that and give it a little bit more of a vibe to it. A lot of times, you know how I said I'll write like a verse chorus, multiple of them, and then I'll let the producer pick. I'll do different versions like that. So I'll have one that's like nice and flowy. I'll have one that's like quick and fast. And then I'll let the producer pick. And I always have the ones that I like above all else, but I like to make it a collaborative effort. So it's about what everybody likes all around. I do usually like to ask the producer, like, did you have anything in mind when you created this instrumental? More often than not, the vibe is there. You can tell by the chord progression, like what they're going for. If they're going for something that's like sad or anthemic or,
Yeah,
happy and
exactly.
uplifting, you can usually tell. So
100%. My one question that I feel like I struggle with, even though I'm not a vocal person at all, but if I try to
yeah,
like write something in my head, is because you said you make multiple different ones, different flows. Like I feel like once I get a
yeah.
melody, like if it's this progression, like ba 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 ba, and then that's like it for like the chorus, like I cannot get my mindset out of that unless it's like a whole new day. So like,
That's where the
how do
piano comes in.
so piano use a piano to kind of do your guidance of your
Yeah.
melodies and all that stuff? Okay,
Yeah, I'll
that's
use
really cool.
another instrument, or like if you're someone who's like versed in a DAW, you can just use MIDI or something like that to mess around and play with something that might sound different, or might find something that you like better. You never know. But if I get really stuck on something and I'm struggling, I break out the piano just to change it up, because changing it up in your brain can like really help you switch gears too.
Another question: how do you do harmonies when creating vocals? And on a side note, she sends dubs, harmonies, and all that stuff with her vocals. Very professional as well, but they are very clean and they sound very
What
good.
did I send you?
What's your process
I
behind
have a
that?
secret weapon.
Okay, let's hear
um,
it.
when, when I was in school, and this is probably the most valuable thing that I learned, that my college degree got me, honestly. I had to be in an ensemble all 8 semesters. And so I was in an all women's a cappella group.
Okay.
And I was one of the arrangers. So I would do 3 to 4 arrangements a semester. So we would take a song, just like off Spotify, break it down into all the different parts, and then rearrange it for 16 women's voices. So that was like, I spent 20, 30 hours a semester doing this.
It's impressive.
It was a lot, but it has obviously come in handy and paid off in spades since I started doing this. So usually, I actually didn't have to do it with yours. This one came pretty easily. But usually, if I have like a big fat harmony stack on something, like the Yago song is 40 vocal tracks. It's a ton.
Sheesh.
Yeah. But usually with something like that, I'll play it out on piano and I'll find all the chords, and then I write them all out like this.
Okay, so you actually know how to write sheet music too, because I saw the treble clef
Yeah.
in there for sure. I played
Yeah, I do
violin,
like
so.
full-blown arrangement. So I know that's not going to work for everybody, because that's extensive and a little bit unnecessary, but that's how I do it. And it's just me trying to justify the fact that I paid a lot of money for music school.
Do you when you're doing harmonies, do you say, okay, so let's say like this note is D, right? The
Yeah.
main line. So you're making a harmony for it. Do you do like, okay, what's the fifth down and let me record that? Do you like do fifths and sevenths, or like do you have a process like that, or is it just like what you feel fits musically, I guess?
Yeah, it depends. I think for a lot of EDM, I like to put the third above the melody. Like that works really well for a lot of stuff. But I
Okay.
usually like to try and make sure that I change it up so it's not just the third above the entire time. Like I'll change it up so like sometimes it'll be like the third and then it'll jump up to a fifth and work its way back down. Um,
Got you. Okay.
and I like to make, whenever I get the opportunity to, because I know not a lot of people will use them, but whenever I get to make, we call them crunchy chords.
Crunchy chords. Okay.
Chords that have like an added second or an added sixth or something, not just
So
like a
like a
seventh chord, something
dissonance
that's a
that
little,
works out.
yeah,
Okay.
like something that's a little dissonant and weird and different. I love to add those whenever I get the chance to.
Yeah. I do enjoy doing that, like chords, like not necessarily chord inversions, but like trying to find something that will maybe go to the next chord that's not necessarily it's out of key, but it works with like a transferring, if that
Yeah,
makes sense. So I can definitely feel that.
yeah, I love
Um,
stuff like that.
that's
And
really good.
honestly, to get there, just playing it on piano, chord by chord, literally like note by note. So syllable by
What?
syllable, you can play it out and figure out what fits the best.
Ooh, this made me think of one more question because I
Yeah, go
remember
ahead.
Oliver told me this a long time ago. Not was you, just some vocalist, but he said when he sent you tracks that he would also just send you the chord progression. Is that
Yeah.
something that helps a vocalist? Like if you're like, all right, here's the full track, and then here's like this. I don't know if I did it for you. I think I may have sent the sense straight, but I don't know if I did
I don't
necessarily just a
remember.
chord
I don't think I
progression.
needed them. Yeah.
Does that
Um,
help or
it depends. Sometimes I use them, sometimes I don't. It depends on how big the song is. Like I have songs with Oliver where it's just like my voice and doubles in one harmony. And then I have another one. The one that's coming out in January is like huge stacks. I think it's 30 something vocal tracks. So
Yeah.
like that one, having the chords helps me because then I can figure out what chords my voice needs to be forming to fit into his melody. And like I can do it by ear, but it's a lot faster if I have the chords in front of me to just have it
do
there.
it? Yeah.
And then from there, I can figure out if I can add those fun dissonant notes that I like to work with or not.
Where can people find you?
I am Dani King Music, DANIKING Music across all platforms. Easy.
Easy access.
And come talk to me on Twitter. I love Twitter.
Twitter. Oh, you're in the Twitter world. Oh God.
Yes.
I go in there 5 minutes. I'm like, yo, all right.
That's where I like to go be a clown, like truly.
I feel like that's every artist whenever they're like, I'm kind of stuck on something or vocals, like, let me just go poke Twitter real quick.
Yeah, literally. That's where I get to be like annoying and it's very fun. I love
that's everyone's alter ego is just Twitter.
Yeah, literally.
That's dope. Well,
but yeah, I'm on everything: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter.
Well, if you guys made it to this point in the video, like I said, go check out her Patreon. She is very smart and very good at what she does. So if you are trying to get into
made it this far, we love you.
Yeah, for real, love you, because this is going to be a long episode. We truly appreciate it. Dani's a great person and very talented. Go check out her music. I'll also drop, besides I'll just drop all your socials. Go check out her Spotify or SoundCloud or whatever
You're the
you're
best.
supposed to. She is awesome. She has good people that are winning in the scene, and I'm glad that you made time for me in your busy schedule. So I truly appreciate
Thanks,
that.
man. Yeah, thanks for having me on. This was awesome. Glad we did it.
All right. Well, YouTube, we will see you later. It was a pleasure.